So, for some reason, whenever it comes to living outside of the US, there's always some stereotypes out there, especially when it comes to retirement. People think that, for example, any place that is not the US is probably not safe. You're probably going to get kidnapped. Something as bad is going to happen. People there cannot be trusted. And I'm just being 100% honest because that tends to happen. And it's kind of like human nature. If you've never been somewhere, you probably don't feel safe there anyways, okay? But one thing happens when you travel a lot, you kind of find out that people everywhere are people, and people are bad overall, like for sure, but in most places people are like normal people, like it's fine. And by the way, whenever you're looking up crime rates, you remember, right, you also want to remember in different areas you have different crime rates. Some areas are bad, some areas are not that bad. And by the way, in the US there's also a lot of crime if you look in statistics. So my whole thing is, guys, as you watch this video, my goal is obviously to share with you guys 5 ideas when it comes to different places to live in where you can actually retire for a lot less money than you could, like instead of like going to Florida and spending a bunch of money or somewhere else in the US. You could actually live somewhere outside of the US for a little bit of money compared to the US and live a lot better of a quality of life. I think I said that sentence backwards, but you get what I'm saying, right? So as always, guys, like this video on top of also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified. Now, the very first place, guys, is going to be Dominican Republic. I'm actually from here. I was born here. I'm actually living here again after like, I don't even know how many years, more than a decade for sure. But the idea is, in Dominican Republic, people love to come here and visit. It's fairly safe, but there are dangerous places. And by the way, one thing I'll say, guys, if you're looking to move somewhere, consider actually getting an Airbnb in a nice area. On top of that, do not be afraid to live with locals. Like, people are local, they're actually pretty normal people. When I moved to Puerto Rico the first time, the whole idea was, people told me, Tommy, move into a nice area because there's always crime everywhere. I was like, yo, there's crime absolutely everywhere in this planet. So I wasn't afraid to move in with the locals in a nice area, of course, and I saved a bunch of money. Instead of paying $1,500 for a 1-bedroom apartment, I was paying $725. I was like 10 minutes away from the airport. Everything was in my area, but I was more in a local area. And it was a safe area, it was a normal area, but people wanted me to live, for example, in the best neighborhood. Like, no, not really into that, okay? So, Dominican Republic, the average person here earns about $400 or less per month. So, obviously, minimum wage as far as monthly, it's not that great. But it also tells you that basically, if you want to live, for example, in the capital, which is basically the most like advanced area here, and it is expensive, by the way, relative to people here, the answer is you could basically rent an apartment there and still have a bunch of money left over to do whatever you want. There's a bunch of restaurants, there's a bunch of activities, because again, it is a tourist area for the most part, and you actually get to do a lot of stuff, okay? So overall, I would say like less than $1,500 and you're solid here per month, okay? Now, that's just my overall budget, but in reality, there are areas here where you pay like 9,000 pesos or the equivalent of $160 for rent per month, and you can basically live off here if you really had to, if you really wanted to, with less than $1,000, no problem, and still eat out, still enjoy life. But you gotta understand, you're going to be living with locals. Don't be afraid to do that. And by the way, get on Airbnb, get a place somewhere, like in a nice area where you feel safe. And as you keep exploring and get into new different areas, be open to actually searching in different local areas which are basically relatively safe, and then this way you can actually get comfortable first before you actually go ahead and jump into something. Now, number 2, guys, is going to be Mexico. Now, I don't know where this bias I know where it came from, it's the media and everything like that, but you always hear like Mexico and you think about, well, there's a whole bunch of movies I saw about that, and people get kidnapped and people don't come back and they never find them, okay? Corruption everywhere. But in reality, I remember I saw this video and it was this older lady and she lived in Mexico, but the city was Mazatlan, and she was basically like a 4-minute, 5-minute walk from the beach. And in that area, there was just a whole bunch of Americans, people that basically retired and also locals. And it was basically like a very nice area. And she was paying like less than $600 for her apartment, but that was a nice apartment there. My point is, okay, you got to stay open to searching in different countries, okay? Mexico is not just the Mexico you see, for example, on the news or on TV or any of that stuff, okay? For the most part, I can't wait to go to Mexico. I've been dying to try. I shouldn't say that. I've been really craving to actually try out like their Mexican tacos from like Mexico. Okay, I really want to have that. All right, so I'll be going there soon. Just not yet, but yeah, Mexico. I think the average person there makes about less than $300 per month. Most importantly, guys, okay, with $1,000 or so, you're actually able to rent a nice place, live on food or whatever, and then be able to eat out and so on, okay? But again, if you try to move into one of the tourist areas, you're gonna be spending more money. If you try to move into one of the areas which are a little bit further out, but still local, but still safe, the answer is you're going to be a lot better off. Now, by the way, if you notice here, these two places and most of the places on this list, they're not gonna talk Spanish. Like Spanish is not, I mean English. English is not gonna be like their main language. And it's not like you gotta know Spanish per se, but depending on the area where you actually choose to move, you could get away potentially with not knowing the language, but knowing the language definitely helps a lot. And also knowing the slang, so you know exactly what's going on at all times. That takes time, but it's not like a real requirement per se. Like in Puerto Rico, you don't need to know like Spanish at all. Most people know English. In Dominican Republic, if you're like in a hotel area, you can get away with it. But for the most part, you do need to learn Spanish. At least like the basics, okay? Now, number 3 is going to be Panama. I was actually surprised here, because the average person in Panama makes about $2,000. And I think their coin or their currency is like dollar for dollar with ours. And that was pretty crazy to me. But Panama was actually ranked as one of the most safest places here in South America. To me, that was also pretty good, okay? I'd never been to Panama, but I had a conversation with a friend, and he was like in the army, and he would travel around everywhere. And he said, and one day he kind of like disappeared. I was like, yo, where were you? He's like, I was in Panama. I was like, why? He's like, yo, Panama is beautiful. Panama is amazing. The cities are actually big, they're clean, they're safe, and it's just a nice area. So again, be open to trying these places out and seeing exactly what you like. Number 4 is going to be Portugal. By the way, I know like as a YouTuber, I should tell you, watch my other videos. So this way you actually get more understanding. But I don't have the most detailed videos as far as, for example, these exact places. But there are people that actually lived and retired in these places and actually made concrete videos on this stuff. Okay, so be open. Go on YouTube. Type in, for example, retiring in Mexico. Best places to retire in Mexico. I'm not going to cover everything in this video because the video would be hours long, okay? But those people have great content. Look them up on YouTube, search them up, and do your research. Now, number 4 is going to be Portugal. I think I saw this couple. I think their channel is like the Rich Life or something like that. And just look up moving in Portugal. It's a black guy and his wife, and he has like 2-3 kids or so, and it's like a beautiful family. But they actually moved to Portugal and they actually bought a house and they did a whole bunch of farm work and they actually retired. I don't know if he's black. I think maybe he's Spanish. He looks like me, okay? But with glasses, all right? So that's the guy. But look him up, okay? Look up Portugal, how to retire in Portugal. He has a video on it, and he also has like a worksheet on this whole thing, and that should probably help you too. But and by the way, I should mention that all these places, they have pretty affordable healthcare, because if you're looking into retirement, whether you're young or older, you still have to consider healthcare. And last on my list is actually Costa Rica. Costa Rica is also one of the top retirement areas. Overall, guys, here's my advice if you're looking for a place to actually live outside of the US. Yes, there is a massive benefit living somewhere where the US dollar has a lot of buying power, but overall, I think the most important factors are basically safety, healthcare, and also like quality of life. Those things are super important. So although I might have a benefit financially, but if I don't feel safe somewhere, I really would not want to live there. All right. So that's the main thing. So as you do your research, keep in mind these main proponents and make sure before you commit to anything, be available, save up some money for like a year. Okay. Save up like $50 a week or $100 a week. At the end of the year, you have like $50, $200 if I'm mistaken. And with that, you can kind of travel to 3 of these places, rent an Airbnb, see exactly what you like, what you don't like, and do a bunch of research. You don't have to go there immediately, but do a bunch of research online and find different areas. You don't have to live in the best area. For example, if I wanted to buy an apartment in this area where I'm staying at right now in Dominican Republic, it would be like probably like $60,000 or like $80,000 US. But if I wanted to go to Punta Cana, that would be like 120, 150, 200. If I want to go to the capital, you have 120, 100. But if I wanted to live like in the nicest places there, you're looking at like 200, 300, 500, $700,000. Okay, so there's always an area in a place that's super expensive. I didn't mention any, for example, like Taiwan and all these other places because I don't really know that much about them, but there are a lot more options than I covered in this video, so stay open to them, okay, guys? And as always, guys, comment down below exactly where is your dream retirement place. For me, personally, I haven't given it much thought, but for right now, currently, it's probably Dominican Republic. I actually like it here. I love it here. It's where I was born. My family's here. I'm able to make my money regularly from my computer because I can do my job here. So that's also pretty good. And remember, right? Retirement isn't just about I have this much money in investments, but it's also about if you're actually able to work remote and earn some US dollars while you're there, like part-time or full-time, you're actually able to enjoy a good quality of life and actually earn some decent money. So this way you don't have to wait until like you're 59 or 80 to actually go ahead and retire. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. And as always, up here is another banger. Over here's my face. As always, Longstream Team officially out. Comment down below vacation so I know you made it all the way to the end of the video. The real end. Peace.